Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Italian Open catch-up,
Alcaraz stopped Sinner's streak to win in Rome.
Paolini ends Italy's 40-year wait for a ladies' champion.
And Novak Djokovic parts ways with Andy Murray as part of his coaching setup.
Kim, Chris, today is the 19th of May, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ, brought to you by Sports Travel and Hospitality Group. The French Open is nearly upon us, and what a way to whet the appetite with the Jannik Sinner Carlos Alcaraz rivalry reignited in Rome, where Carlitos came out as the champion. Home hero Jasmine Paolini also did the double in the singles and doubles, with Coco Gauff once again having to settle for runner-up. Off court, Novak Djokovic announced the end of his coaching partnership with Andy Murray, and the Laver Cup announced some new recruits with Holger, Rune and João Fonseca. Guys, the countdown is on to the French Open. Qualifying has already begun, and it's a very, very special episode here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We've hit 500 episodes.
Wow, 500. I mean, did that sneak up on you, Joel? Can you believe we made it to 500?
I was counting down the days. I had a calendar up on my wall, and I was figuring out, was it going to hit at the French Open? Was it going to hit before the French Open? So yeah, I've been looking forward to it.
It's come a long way, hasn't it, Joel, since you started on a park bench
Talking
about
Kyle
7
Edmund
years
and
ago.
Estoril, yeah.
I mean, it was so long ago, wasn't it? That was when Kyle Edmund went on that run.
Yeah.
To the semi-finals of the Australian Open. A bit of Tennis Weekly podcast lore. As Kim said, it genuinely started with me talking into a clip-on microphone on a park bench in Melbourne Park. And I just remember quite a few kind of members of the public walking past, just looking at this guy, just sort of
what is he doing?
Being like, is this guy talking to himself?
Is he hungover? Is he okay?
Is he mad?
Yeah.
I mean, some of our early episodes are probably quite a laugh and quite hilarious to listen back to. If listeners, you've not delved into the back catalogue, I encourage you to have a laugh.
The passing shot.
Passing shot, it was called. But I think you can still find them in the annals of Tennis Weekly online. And I think our predictions probably even more laughable, perhaps, or just some of the results or predictions we're making, and if you want a trip down memory lane, who was top 10 in 2018 and nowhere to be found nowadays, it will probably be quite an interesting thing to do.
Kim, I can't bring myself to do it, because if you do go back to that very first episode, there's a lot of umming, there's a lot of ahhing, there's a lot of not very good audio quality. It makes my skin crawl.
Maybe we should listen, just to make us realise when we think we've done it badly or the audio is not good. Yes. It's actually much better than we thought. But I mean, we have got a little something to celebrate. We can raise a glass, Joel, to 500.
Yes,
we've all prepared a little something.
Yeah. What have you brought? What have you brought to the table?
Well, you go, Chris. Yours looks quite interesting. Has it got some herbs?
It's got a bit of rosemary in there. It's like a pear Hugo Spritz. Bit different. For audio listeners, you're just hearing a jangle, a very nice jangle maybe, but that's about it.
Kim, what have you brought to celebrate the occasion?
A sort of non-alcoholic gin and tonic. I thought, as it's Monday, I drank quite a lot over the weekend because of Eurovision being on. So I'm taking a non-alcoholic day.
She's taking a day off finally.
Yeah.
I have gone with a can of Jubel beer, which is peach. It's peach beer.
So it's a bit fruitier than a regular beer.
Yeah,
it's fruity beer for a fruity occasion.
Yeah, and it's quite light as well. So
it won't affect the podcasting. Okay,
no,
good
decisions,
everyone.
No drunken predictions.
The celebration will have
there was
to
no
be...
WKD in the cupboard.
No, but we do have to say a massive thank you to everyone who has, supported us since the very beginning, or whatever point you kind of came on board along the way. It's been such a journey, hasn't it? Since we began 7 years ago, and without our wonderful listeners, we would not have had all the, incredible experiences that we've had. And, a lot of our listeners have kept us going through the crowdfunder, haven't they? So, this drink is very much for everyone out there supporting us as well.
And we're going to be talking about some of our favorite memories in the second half. So definitely stick around for that, because there's a lot to go on. And I'm quite interested to hear, Kim and Chris, what your favorite memories of the pod are, because I feel like there's been so many
memories indeed. Well,
500
Joel,
episodes, you can't speak anymore.
some of those memories we do speak of quite regularly. I'm sure Timea Bacsinszky is going to feature.
Oh,
is she?
Maybe. And the Carlos Suarez Navarro retirement video.
We have to get that in every week, but we can save that for the second half, right?
Yes, and allow us some self-indulgence later when we go down memory lane. But listeners, if you've made it to 500 episodes with us, if you aren't already subscribed, we would really appreciate it if you do follow us on all our social channels, subscribe to us on YouTube, give our content a like, because it is the support that keeps us growing, and keep on doing what we love to do. And let's hope we can get to 750, 1,000. Who knows?
2,000.
2,000, 5,000. I mean, I don't know what age we would all be then.
Are we at an auction?
Multiple tennis episodes a day. We can tag team round the clock.
Yes. But let's think about what's been happening this week, because, well, before we go into the tennis, obviously Eurovision has happened. Austria have won. Did you both watch it? I mean, it's, we've just got to touch upon it. Another nil point for GB, for the UK.
I didn't do much better over here in Denmark. I mean,
Denmark didn't do much better, Chris, in the public vote, because I think they got 2 points.
2 points, but I mean, two is better than nothing. I think we'd have to say, based on what could have happened. But I mean, it wasn't the best result for the UK either. I thought they were going to do a lot better. So, listeners, we are sort of suffering here. Kim's had a heavy weekend, drowning her sorrows after Remember Monday didn't pick up any points from the public.
No, I mean, it wasn't a massive surprise.
No,
they had good harmonies.
We did, but
that's about it.
I think the jury and the public vote were quite disparate this year. We often get some funny results, but there were quite a lot this year that were a bit all over the place. So we're
blaming the public or the jury?
Part of the fun. Oh, I don't know. Bit of both, maybe.
Yes.
Good job. Tennis is just all about the player on the court, and there's no sort of public vote.
No, well, the jury does come out when there are scandals, though, Kim. Yeah.
Well, that is true. Well, let's go to tennis now. Enough of Eurovision. That's over for another year, but tennis never has a gap, as we all know. So, what's been your highlight from the tennis world this past week? Joe, I'm coming to you first.
Well, I spoke about it last week. Jannik Sinner and the Pope. It's the friendship. It's the meeting of minds. It's the meeting of worlds, and it happened a few days ago while Sinner was in Rome. Because the new Pope Leo, he's a big tennis fan, and he gave a racket. He gave a tennis racket to Jannik Sinner. They joked.
Wait, Jannik Sinner gave him a racket, surely.
I thought it was the other way around, but maybe I'm getting it mixed up. But
does he have multiple rackets to give away? He really must be a tennis
old
fan.
And wooden.
I would have thought it would be more classical than Yannick's current racket.
It must be from Jannik. Maybe it was from Jannik Sinner. But what I enjoyed most is, and I'm actually becoming a bit of a fan of the new Pope Leo, because he joked with Jannik Sinner because he's in an, I didn't even know it was called this, and I might be saying it wrong, a Cossack, the white sort of garment that the Pope wears. He said that at Wimbledon they would let me play, which was a nice little reference to their all-white policy. So Pope Leo, he's in the know on tennis, and a little bit of a joker.
He is. I think, was he happy to be meeting Jannik, or was it also a case that I thought his favourite player was Carlos Alcaraz? What was revealed last time. We
did hear that, but it seems to have been forgiven, because he said that he would play. He'd be up for a charity match involving Jannik Sinner. So that's...
ask Carlos, and then we tried to find a fourth, Kim. Do you have any ideas who it could be?
Well, I mean, Pope Leo is technically American, isn't he? So perhaps a Tommy Paul or someone could get
a Laver Cup. Okay.
To honour, his original nationality. He spent a lot of time in Peru, hasn't he? But I can't think of any Peruvian tennis players who are current.
We could just go South American. That could be the other option that we have.
Pablo Cuevas.
Was he
Uruguay? I thought he was Uruguay.
I feel like it was like you were caught in a loop, you two. Pablo Cuevas and the Pope. You heard it here first, listeners.
Oh dear. I mean, Chris, what caught your eye this last week, or what's coming up for you? Maybe I think you've got maybe something exciting to share.
Yes, well, I mean, it's not something that's happened yet, but it's something that arrived in our inbox is Ami Mauresmo slid into our inbox because I'm heading to Paris. I'm going to be covering the French Open for the podcast with producer Alina. And this is a bit different from Wimbledon because we do get a formal invite to the draw ceremony, and it includes a cocktail before the draw ceremony. So I guess it's one cocktail so things don't get too rowdy, but we've got a date at the Orangery. So that will be very exciting, and we can give you all of the updates. I think that's on Thursday. I've got to get the day right. And also, again, one drink policy before recording the podcast where we have to make our predictions. But will it help being there in person, Joel, do you think?
Oh, I don't know, but I feel like a drink could help a predictions.
Loosen up the
feel.
predictions.
Yes.
This is a very
I just want to know what the drink
episode.
is.
Yes.
I really want to know what cocktail they're going to be serving.
Is this where the money, the extra revenue from night session tickets has gone to?
Remember they did have a ban on alcohol in the stand, so maybe this is the only place where you can drink at the French Open is actually in the Orangery at the draw ceremony. But I will give you all of the scoop as to what happens there. It's always a very glamorous affair. I mean, we always get a very prominent sporting icon who comes and appears. Some players also appear. I think it tends to be the defending champion. So very excited to see how that goes down. But Joel, I think you may not be in Paris. Not Joel, sorry, Kim, you're not in Paris, but you have something sporting has caught your attention.
Yes, there was lots going on at the weekend. It wasn't just Eurovision, which is a sport of sorts, I suppose. It's certainly a marathon watching it sometimes as it goes on till the early hours. But no, I was watching all the FA Cup action. We had not only Crystal Palace winning the men's FA Cup for the first time ever, but we had Chelsea winning the women's on Sunday. And lo and behold, I was watching the coverage and spotted a certain Serena Williams in the crowd, which took me by surprise. But then I did a bit of research and found out that her husband, Alexei Ohanian, has an 8% stake in the Chelsea team. So obviously has invested and that's paying dividends because they won 3-0 against Man U to lift the cup again. So Serena was there with her daughter Olympia and her husband watching on. So she had a nice sort of Chelsea-ish blue skirt on as well. So obviously happy that their
showing
team
her
won.
support. Well, she does make it to these big sporting events, doesn't she? The Super Bowl, and now she's at the FA Cup final.
Don't think she was doing her, what's it called?
A Crip walk, a Chelsea walk.
No, I don't
a new edition.
She was just
a Croydon walk
normally. No. But yes, no, it was exciting to see worlds colliding like that. So yeah, lots happening.
I'm just looking at her shoes, and she's got some nice heels on. I don't feel like at Wimbledon she would have been afforded the opportunity to walk in those heels on the turf.
Oh, no.
Yes. At Wembley
no,
though, it's
quite.
okay.
It's fine at Wembley. That pitch can take a lot more action, can't it? This episode is brought to you by Sports Travel and Hospitality Group,
the leading provider of travel, hospitality, and customer experiences at global sporting events, including this year's Roland-Garros.
By booking with Sports Travel and Hospitality Group, tennis fans around the world can witness the pinnacle of the clay court season unfold, all the while indulging in luxurious hospitality that only Roland-Garros can provide.
As an official agent of Roland-Garros, Sports Travel and Hospitality Group guarantees you unrivaled views from the best seats in the house on Philippe Chatrier, as well as world-class cuisine and beverages served on site.
With Sports Travel and Hospitality Group, you also have access to the matches of your choosing, with 3 package tiers available across the entire tournament.
Learn more and book your Roland-Garros hospitality package today at sportstravelhospitality.com/Roland-Garros. That's sportstravelhospitality.com/Roland-Garros.
So what are you waiting for? Secure your premium seat at Roland-Garros today for a once-in-a-lifetime Grand Slam tennis experience.
The link is in the description.
Let's have a look at what went down at the Italian Open in Rome. It wasn't just all about Sinner meeting the Pope last week. We actually did have tennis to play. And yeah, Sinner was in the final. He had almost a fairy tale comeback, but couldn't go all the way because Carlos Alcaraz stopped him in straight sets in the final, 7-6, 6-1. to defeat Jannik Sinner. And with this win, Alcaraz has become the first player of the season to win 3 titles this year. And he's also managed to get a second clay court masters this season. I think he's the first person since Rafa going into Roland-Garros having snapped up more than one of the clay masters. So he's peaking maybe at the right time going into Roland-Garros. But my first question to you both is this particular match. We've got the Alcaraz Sinner, this new kind of burgeoning rivalry, which is already becoming a bit of a mini classic. What did you make of their encounter this time around? Obviously, Sinner coming back after 3 months off, Alcaraz looking to kind of assert himself, and obviously doing so. But Joe, I'm going to come to you first. What did you make of this clash on Sunday?
I think from a tennis point of view, I think we've seen better performances from both players in their rivalry. And I think it took both players a bit of time to kind of get used to conditions. I felt like in the first several games, there was a lot of kind of mistiming. We didn't really get into kind of extended epic rallies that I think everyone was hoping and wishing for. So I think from a kind of a fan point of view, maybe there was a little bit left in terms of kind of to be desired going into the French Open, which I don't think is any bad thing. But I think regardless, having them to get to the final with all the stuff that's gone on so far this season, it just reminds me, or it just makes me think, it's like we have literally just gone back to and reverted to like before. And it's almost like normal order is resumed because we've got Sinner and Alcaraz in a Masters 1000 final.
Yeah, it has very much become the standard proceedings again. I suppose we've had a couple of maybe surprise winners and finalists along the season, but in Sinner's absence. But yeah, it was very much the top 2 back in action, almost doing what they do best. Yeah, not the best match they've had, perhaps, but doing enough for Alcaraz to come through. Obviously, Sinner was on a win streak. He was at 26 matches for his win streak. Obviously, that stat kind of fell off my radar because he's had this absence, but Alcaraz being the first player to end that. But yeah, Chris, going forwards, I mean, how do you think Sinner firstly will be feeling getting to this final, not quite getting the job done, but having some, great wins across the course of the week, especially, hate to mention it, that thrashing of Casper Ruud. How do you think he'll be feeling, now that Rome's kind of drawn to a close?
I think he'll be pleased that Rome is behind him now. I think obviously he'd have loved to win the title, but you can't always get everything that you want. When I think he probably did get a lot of what he wanted from the suspension being quite favourable to him. So coming back and winning, I think that probably, although it would have been great for him, I think it would have certainly not let this story around his suspension die. So I think it's good for him that he can move on from this now. I think it's also positive that he has got match practice in because he did need it. He's had some pretty topsy-turvy clashes this week, from winning, Love and 1 to, losing a set 6-1 to Tommy Paul. It's been a bit all over the shop. So he's got a lot of match time in, a lot of different situations he had to get himself out of. And it all came down to that first set, really. If he'd have taken those set points, I do think he probably would have maybe won it. I think it's always a case that those close sets can then lead to the result going one way, and it was pretty one-sided in that second set. So I think he'll be focused on the fact that he did get to the final of a Masters on clay. He hasn't won a clay Masters before, so that is a big achievement for him. Obviously not the biggest achievement of his career because he's won Grand Slams, but it's notable. I do think that he didn't really get it done at the net, and I think that's going to be key if they do clash in Paris, because Alcaraz was getting everything back, as well as kind of hitting that forehand with such a high spin rotation that when he did get to the net, it was almost like he felt more pressure to finish there, whereas Alcaraz had that magic at the net on some of those big moments. So there's room to improve in some areas. I think there were quite a few unforced errors in that second set from Sinner, but there has been a few moments where he has lost his focus. So a positive week, and I think we're setting ourselves up for a very entertaining and very open Roland-Garros.
Yeah, it's interesting that Sinner's not won a clay Masters yet, because Alcaraz has become only the 5th player actually to win all the clay court Masters that exist. He joins Rafa, Novak, Gustavo Kuerten, and Marcelo Rios as being only the
Pablo
5th player
Cuevas,
to have done that. Not Pablo Cuevas.
And the Pope.
Sadly. So Alcaraz very much, has a lot more of the sort of clay history under his boots already. Going into the French Open, Do you think that's come slightly too soon for Sinner? Has he done enough here to kind of get him to a point of being comfortable at Roland-Garros, able to probably get to the final with ease, and maybe Alcaraz being the only person likely to be able to beat him? Does Alcaraz go in as the favourite just based on this match, Joel?
Yeah, I think with Jannik Sinner, I think even though he's obviously had time off, he can still train and be physically fit, and I think we saw that. In Rome. So I don't necessarily think the fact that we're going to be bumped up to best of 5 at the French Open is going to be a big impact on Sinner. Having said that, I do think Alcaraz is playing the better tennis, and he does go in as the favourite. I think his game is more complete on a clay court, and it was interesting to hear Tim Henman on commentary talk about, they're both very comfortable moving from side to side at the back of the court, and arguably maybe Sinner has a better A game from back there than Alcaraz. But the reality is that Alcaraz, when he's moving forward and backwards towards the net, he is a lot more comfortable than Sinner. And you got to think with Alcaraz, in terms of the variety he can play with, that drop shot, I think that is going to be quite important in this rivalry on the clay courts because of Sinner's movement and maybe his tentativeness at the net. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets deployed a little bit more, because I felt like that was not on show as much as it could be. But it was certainly interesting that the touch aspect, the close quarters aspect, I think favoured Alcaraz. But yeah, I think for that reason, movement, a bit more variety, I think, in stroke play, I think you've got to give the edge to Alcaraz at the moment.
And he has obviously been playing more tennis and he's been winning more on the clay. And I think it's also a case where when opponents get more balls back, and Jannik's obviously a big hitter, I think he's not going for quite as big a shot. The backhand down the line was not quite the weapon that it is on some of the hard courts from what we've seen from Jannik. And I think I've actually watched him play at Rome before, and he doesn't take it on as much on clay. I think it does leave yourself a lot more open to again being taken out wide and then opening up the court. So I think it's interesting because he's such a good mover, as you say, but there were quite a lot of those drop shots which he didn't even get kind of a racket to. Whereas, I mean, Alcaraz gets a racket on everything. So it's that one extra ball. But Kim, based on what you've seen, do you think we could be on track for a Sinner Alcaraz final? They're on separate halves of the draw.
Every tournament Sinner Alcaraz plays now, we're just going to be like, is it going to end in Sinner versus Alcaraz?
Now they're 1 and 2. We can say it, Joel. Finally.
That's true.
The expectation. Yeah, I think that is the expectation. I think a lot of fans will be hoping for that.
I mean, there was not a seat. There was not a seat available, was there? On the court on Sunday. It was a real spectacle, and it was like, oh, tennis. It did feel to me like, oh, tennis is back.
I mean, Alcaraz has won, I think, the last 3 or 4 in their head-to-head. Definitely the last 3. So, probably goes in as the favourite if they were to meet in the final. But I think it would remain to be seen how physically fit they may be, what they battle throughout the course of the 2 weeks to get there. We're getting probably too far ahead of ourselves because things can happen all of a sudden to throw people's plans off. So, but I think, yeah, all being well, that's the final we're going to get. I mean, we were talking about the likes of Casper Ruud, weren't we, before? But I mean, he got thrashed in Rome, and I have to say that really doesn't bode well should he come up against a Sinner at the French. I mean, it really wasn't his best day, was it, Chris?
No, I mean, it was probably one of the best performances we've seen from Jannik Sinner. But at the same time, I was thinking this does just show the level of the rest of the field in comparison, because, Ruud was winning a Masters title, and you'd have to think if Sinner was there, he wouldn't have lost to Casper Ruud along the way. Obviously, there are other players, he said, who can cause upsets along the way. It could happen in Paris as well. And people do play, well, some people play better some weeks. But I mean, that was very damning. And I did think if Sinner was to win, it would just really make a big point that, anyone who won a title or picked up a big win over the last few months, you can't guarantee that you would have done that had Sinner not been suspended. So doesn't matter. You can't take away Casper's title, but I don't think he seemed to be too bothered by it, because I think he thought he was just playing, too well. But at the same time, I don't think you should settle for that when you are a Masters champion now.
Do you think Ruud, that was a bad day at the office and he can raise his game to be competitive with Sinner? Or do you think in time for the French Open, or do you think they're just kind of worlds apart at the moment?
I think To lose love and one from a top 10 player on a clay court, it's unlikely you'll just be served off the court. It's pretty heavy conditions in Rome as well. So I think that's probably a case that if you don't get into it, it can run away from you. I do think he can be a threat. I do think on Grand Slams in big moments, Casper does turn up. He's made Slam finals. He's caused upsets in the past. I think probably it was just a case that one person really got off at the races and the other one was still in the blocks.
Yeah, I mean, spare a thought, guys, for Tommy Paul, because he reached the semi-finals in Rome, lost to Sinner in a bit of a topsy-turvy match, but he has had quite a stressful week, according to news reports, because he's had his truck repossessed.
This was the big news story. Forget Sinner and the Pope.
I mean,
Tommy Paul and his truck.
Yeah, he's he was the 11th seed here. He's not, short of a few bob, I would say, but he hasn't been making his payments for his truck, and it was taken back by the truck people. And he's called it his baby, and he has had to splash out $1,000 to get the vehicle back. So maybe a bit of mismanagement then, because I would have thought he would have had that money, but I don't know the ins and outs of his finances.
He was playing tennis like his truck depended on it, particularly in that first set against Jannik Sinner. I was sort of wondering how big are these payments? Because he's been doing well over the last few seasons.
Why doesn't he just buy the truck? Is also my question.
How big is the truck?
Yeah, like he's on a payment plan. I think maybe he was told about the truck after he won that first set, and then he, got bageled in the next set against Jannik Sinner. Because we have many questions. He's not answered all of them, but all we know now is that I think he's getting his truck back. He has made enough, Joel, hasn't he, to secure the truck?
Yes, I think he's got the truck back. And if I'm in the Tommy Paul coaching camp, this is definitely going to be a motivational lever I am using. If the Tommy Paul hype train is or he's not quite performing, I'll be like, just think of the truck. Just think of the truck.
No win, no truck, Tommy.
No win, no truck.
Sounds like a kid's toy, doesn't it? Tommy's truck.
Tommy and his truck. Bless.
Well, Sinner was hoping to become the first male Italian champion in Rome since Adriano Panatta did it in 1976. But the Italians did get a home champion because Jasmine Paolini won the event, becoming the first Italian woman to win the Italian Open since 1985 when Raffaella Reggi did it. And that was actually not at the location that the tournament's at now. That was in Taranto where they used to hold the Italian Open. So yeah, fantastic scenes for Italian women's tennis. Paolini kind of back to winning ways, winning another Masters title following the Dubai title of last year and dispatching Coco Gauff 6-4, 6-2 in the final. Really pleased for her. She is such a joyous player, and it's nice to see her kind of peaking at this time of the year again. Chris, how impressed were you with Jasmine Paolini throughout the week? Not a champion that any of us predicted, I think, but obviously we know she can do it. She's done it before. And here she is winning her third singles title.
Well, not only her third singles title, she also defended her doubles title with Sara Errani. So a lot of Italian success coming from Paolini, which is, it just shows she's a real player of class, winning the singles and the doubles and doing it at home with all that pressure. And she was at times in some precarious positions. It wasn't all plain sailing for her this week. She had some really tough encounters. So it does seem like she's played her way into form. And I think we probably do underrate her as a clay courter because obviously she made the final in Paris, but we hadn't necessarily thought that much about her on this surface. The same with grass. It kind of just switched into action and she suddenly showed her pedigree. But against Schneider, she was very much potentially going out. So she did well to turn that one around. And then against Coco, far superior. I think Coco's been a bit unlucky in some of those moments because she doesn't tend to play her best tennis in the finals. I think that's her frustration with her last couple of results, but the double faults did creep in. The first serve wasn't at the races for Coco, so I think that's a case when the serve needs to be on for her to put in her best performance. And it wasn't the same sort of performance that she delivered when she took out Iga Swiatek. So I think for Paolini, it's got to be very positive because she's got a lot of points to defend coming up. And it just makes...
contender?
Well, keep saying it. How can she not be? She's made Grand Slam finals. If you ask me about Casper, I'd say the same thing. Both of them won Masters titles coming into the French. I do think probably you need a little bit of help along the way. I think the draws are there to be broken, and she would quite like the draw to be broken. And if she were to draw, Iga Swiatek in the in the quarterfinals. I think that would be a tough ask. I think there are players who could beat her, but she showed on her day she can beat anybody.
Yeah, and Paolini against Gauff, before the start of this season, she'd never beaten Coco Gauff, but now she's managed to kind of switch that head to head around a little bit and equal it up, beating Coco twice on clay over the previous months, first time indoors and now here in Rome. But Coco Gauff, yeah, she's just not quite getting the job done in her clay finals. She's had 2 finals, 2 losses, both on clay. She's been in across singles and doubles 5 Masters 1000 finals on the clay, hasn't won any of them. Yet, if you look at the same stat for sort of hard court, she's never lost one. So it's this real kind of disconnect with her and clay. And we thought she was sort of mastering it a bit more. But where do you think she needs to go next to kind of get that next step up?
It's a lot of time, isn't it, Joel? A lot of time on the ball. And if you are a bit nervous, I do think it gets harder to put the ball away. You've really got to go for your shots. I think the unforced error count, Joel, I did send you something about that this week.
I'm actually looking at some of the Coco Gauff stats in the match. 55 unforced errors in total in that defeat to Paolini and 7 double faults. It doesn't seem like obviously good reading. And as much as obviously Paolini played a really good match, although I will say that she still committed more unforced errors than winners. But for Coco Gauff, not quite clicking in the final, which I'm still a little bit lost for words with.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, the unforced error count too high, and she's getting to finals though, isn't she? That's a positive. But will she, going into Roland-Garros, be able to get that, get over the line if she finds herself in another final? I guess it all very much depends on the opponent, but she's had some like solid wins, hasn't she? But just not able to get the job done. And she really just needs that performance against Swiatek back in Madrid to be repeated, I suppose.
It's quality opponents, isn't it? I mean, it's not a case that on clay she's losing to players who aren't seasoned top 5 players. I mean, it's Sabalenka and it's Paolini in the last couple of tournaments. So, I mean, it's not a bad result at all. And she has had, a few losses earlier this year. So nothing to worry about. I'm sure maybe she does know that stat. Maybe she will know it now. But I think surely she can get one of those results on clay because she is such a fantastic mover. So if she's able to turn it up a gear, I'm sure she's going to bring it in Paris.
Yes. And Joel, I think, did you enjoy Peyton Stearns getting to the semi-final? I know you're quite a fan of.
Didn't she have red foo in her box earlier or last year?
Yeah, that was a very, very good result. Very good win against Svitolina, because Svitolina, in my predictions, I did have her, I think, as champion.
She should have won.
It was very close. I know, final set tie break, but
close.
Peyton Stearns going on a very good run. That good win as well against Osaka.
Madison Keys.
Yeah. Decent player.
Yeah, a bit of a mini breakout for Peyton Stearns. But I mean, many of our listeners may be wondering, where was Aryna Sabalenka, world number 1? She lost in the quarterfinals to Qinwen Zheng. And this was notable because it was Zheng's first victory over Sabalenka. She'd faced her 6 times previously and never won. And this was their first match outside of it being on a hard court. And Zheng was able to finally notch a win under her belt against Sabalenka, 6-4, 6-3. Chris, going into the French, will Sabalenka be a bit thrown off by this result, do you think? Not what she would have wanted, but perhaps, maybe a bit of a blessing in disguise. I don't know, maybe it, shows she can't rest on her laurels, gives her that extra bit of time off, perhaps, to prepare for Roland-Garros. What do you think?
Well, she's already in Paris, so I'm sure she's put this result behind her, but a good result for Qinwen Zheng, who hasn't necessarily had the best form. Remember, she did win in Paris at the Olympics last year on the clay. So she's a great clay courter.
Olympic champion.
She hasn't necessarily
she's underrated?
I think her game is underrated, but her performances, I think that she is a bit overrated because she hasn't necessarily pushed on since that final in Australia necessarily, where you thought that she would have, because she has got such a big game, such a big serve. She hits so big off both wings. And it is surprising that she's kind of really not able to get a win against Sabalenka on hard courts, but clay court worked so well for her. Her first title was on clay, and so clearly it's a surface that she really enjoys. So I'm going to put it out there. I think this is probably the most open French Open we've had. I think if I was looking to give a prediction, you probably would go with Sabalenka. But I mean, I can see probably any of about 10 players potentially coming away with it, and you still might have some outsiders.
Being runner-up at the end.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? We do not know what will happen. But I mean, we've got young talent coming up. We've got Coco Gauff coming back into form. Will Iga do it? I think if I was going to say now, I mean, I would say I'd go with the form book. But do you have anyone else you want to add to the? Can Qinwen win it?
Oh, it's more open than Eurovision this year, hey?
The jury votes are in. What are they?
I don't know. I've got a feeling about Andreeva. I know she's not done amazing actually over the clay, but she did well getting to the semi-finals. Yeah. Was that last year? Yes. And so it could come from anywhere. And we've seen so many times before, like first-time finalists at the French, first-time semi-finalists.
Okay, so we're going rogue finalist and then
Are you building the Shramkova argument here, Kim?
I mean, Katie Boulter's just won a WTA 125 on clay.
She has.
So I'm not saying she's gonna suddenly
Katie Boulter, she said for herself, she did.
But you never know. It's one of those quite open slams, and that's the fun of it. I think this is where we're here for it, aren't we?
We are. But Joel, come on, who are we here for?
I think
Svitolina.
I still think Svitolina's a bit of a dark horse. Yeah. I do think Osaka is slowly getting there, and if she kind of continues what she showed in Rome, I think also that she could be an interesting one to look out for. I think the draw is going to be quite important, particularly this time around, because of it feeling like a finalist could come from anywhere. It could all come down to the sort of draw a player is presented, I think.
Well, Chris will be there with a cocktail in hand to soak the draw up later.
I'll be texting you, being like, I can't believe it's Raducanu versus Sabalenka round one.
Oh, Collins Swiatek round one. Come on, we all want it to happen.
I'd drop the cocktail. I'd have to get straight to the Twitter.
Oh dear. Well, let's take a quick break now to compose ourselves, and we'll be back in the second half to discuss Novak Djokovic parting ways with Andy Murray as his coach, our all-time favourite moments on the podcast as we hit 500 episodes, and we'll be looking ahead to the final set of tournaments on tour ahead of the French Open, including Hamburg, Strasbourg and Geneva. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, brought to you by Sports Travel and Hospitality Group. And before we get into another game, Joel and Chris, I believe we've got some competition winners to announce, because for any of our listeners who listened back to our previous episode, we recently had Christopher Clary on to the show. Christopher is a well-known international sports writer who's written a fantastic book about Rafa Nadal called The Warrior. And we have 2 copies that we have been offering up to our listeners in a giveaway and competition. If you've not already checked out the episode, we definitely encourage you to do so. It's a fantastic conversation. The book is brilliant. So do go and listen to that and, order a copy. That's our advice. But we do have a couple of winners who won't need to order their own copy because they will be getting one from us. Who wants to announce the first winner? Chris?
Ooh, I'll go first, shall I?
You go. Yes.
So our first winner was from Twitter, and it's Becky Moran. And we asked, what was your favorite Rafa memory? So I will share them. I think, Kim, you'll particularly enjoy this one. Becky says it would have to be seeing him play live for the first time at the 2022 French Open against Felix Auger-Aliassime. The match was 5 sets. It was one of only 3 matches Nadal ever played that went to 5 sets at Roland-Garros. So not only a memory, also some trivia. So we particularly like that one.
Yeah, well done, Becky. Fantastic stuff. That was a nervy match, especially with the whole Tony Nadal situation going on for that one.
That was tense, wasn't it?
Where should he have sat on the court? He should have sat down straight down the middle.
Umpired.
Yes.
Umpired. And Joel, would you like to announce our second winner as well?
Indeed. So our second winner is Helen Isherwood. Congratulations, Helen Isherwood. Helen's memory of Rafael Nadal was when Rafa won Wimbledon for the first time in 2008 in the dark in the greatest match of all time. Big claim there, but a fantastic match.
It's a good memory.
Yeah, it's a memory that's, I feel like, etched in every tennis fan's brain.
yeah, I mean, it's arguably is the greatest match of all time. Definitely up there, and it's got to be top 5 at least, I think. So yeah, fantastic stuff. Well done, Becky. Well done, Helen. We'll be contacting you for next steps, and we'll be getting those books out to you shortly. And thanks to everyone for entering. It was lovely to read through all your favorite Rafa memories, some personal memories tied in with there. But so thank you so much for reaching out to us. And yeah, let's wait and see. Might have another competition up our sleeves in the future as well. But well done, Becky and Helen. And on to par for the courts, I think now. We haven't done 500 quiz segments, have we, Joel? But we've been doing quite a few.
We've got
500.
Chris has
beaten me 500
Some not so good.
500 wrong answers from us. That's what that means, right?
So, yes, exactly. Some good, some not so good. I'm hoping this one is a fun one because it's a bit out there. It's a bit out of the blue. I was thinking, do we do more Italian Open champions? But we're going to park. We're going to park
German tennis players again. No,
we're not. We're going to park that as well, Kim. But I do have a category for you both. This is going to be a Kim versus Chris par for the courts. Ooh. And Kim, you are kind of on a little Sinner-esque streak of your own at the moment.
She's not been suspended, has she?
Chris, you are on a revenge mission.
I am. I'm actually pretty focused on this one. I said before, I'm up for it, Kim. I think I won't be letting you go first this week. That's for sure.
That's the pressure.
Okay.
The attitude has come out. But right.
Unless I don't have one answer, and then you go first.
Yeah, you haven't heard the category first. Right, the category for you and our listeners is this. Chris, I know you're a big fan of the Laver Cup, and it's one of your favorite events on the tour. And I was reading this the other day, and it was there are 18 players who have played for Team World in Laver Cup. 18 players have played for Team World, and I would like between you to name me as many of those players who have played for Team World in the history of the Laver Cup.
I mean, that is a tough one.
That's difficult, but I like it. I like the challenge. Thank you, Joel.
I think he wants you to win.
About some of the countries. Maybe think about some of the countries that get represented for Team World.
So it's Team World or Team Europe? Am I allowed to know that? It is, right?
It's just Team World. Not interested in Team Europe. Just Team World.
Okay, so they're not European. So that at least levels it out a bit because Kim can't go for the Spaniards only.
No. Absolutely.
Shall I kick us off then?
Yes, you go. You go first.
I am a bit concerned about this one. I don't know why I'm saying I'm going first. Taylor Fritz must have played.
That is a correct answer. Yes,
like,
Taylor
Fritz.
Come on, there's a lot of Americans. Okay, Taylor Fritz, correct answer.
Nick Kyrgios has played, I believe.
It's a good one.
Correct answer. Yes, one apiece. Very good.
I think the other Special K's played. I think Kokkinakis played before.
Kokkinakis is also a correct answer. Yes, 2-1 to Chris. This is quite tense, quite early on. I can already feel it.
Well, I mean, we've gone for Australian tennis players. This doesn't normally happen this early.
I'm going to say Diego Schwartzman.
Oh, I do remember that.
That is a correct answer, Kim. Very good. Diego Schwartzman, Argentinian, is on the list. So 2 apiece.
I thought you were going to keep the Australian thing going, Kim, but I will instead with Alex de Minaur.
Alex de Minaur is a correct answer, yes. 3-2 to Chris.
Oh, this is where it gets tricky. Jack Sock?
Jack Sock?
No, am I thinking of someone? Oh, no. I've said it now.
You've said it now, Kim.
He was a bit past it when the Laver Cup started, wasn't he?
Jack Sock. It's a correct answer.
Oh.
I can't believe
very
that.
Good. Jack Sock is miraculously is on the list. So that is 3 apiece. You've got a third. You've got a third of all of the entries.
I think I've just realised that we could say Canadian. So Denis Shapovalov.
Denis Shapovalov.
It's not just USA.
I know. I just panicked. Shapovalov.
That is a correct answer.
Sharpo,
Very good, Chris.
I should have said Sharpo.
Yeah, very,
Well,
very
I'm going
good.
to say
That's
Felix.
4-3. So
Felix
Kim, over to you.
Auger
Given her one, haven't I?
Aliassime.
Felix Auger-Aliassime. That is correct as well. 4-all.
Okay,
All
well,
the pressure's just been thrown back to Chris.
I'm just going to keep Canadian. I've got no one else, so Raonic has played it.
Raonic is a correct answer. Yes.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
I think, Kim, you're in trouble now, surely.
It's 5-4.
Well,
how many did we
think
get?
when it began, was it sort of 2017 it began or something?
I sort of hinted at the beginning, but no one really took the bait there.
Well, I've got a player who's retired now, but Kevin Anderson.
Kevin Anderson. It's a fantastic shout. It's a correct answer. The only South African who has played for in the Laver Cup, Kevin Anderson, correct answer. So we are 5-all. Wow, I didn't think we were going to get this far.
I do have another. As much as I like to avoid the Laver Cup at all costs, I do remember that Francisco Cerundolo was roped in to play. So I think he's played it.
That is correct. Very, very good. So that is 6-5 to Chris. I'm getting nervous here. It might end in a dead heat.
It's gonna be
I'm
500
thinking,
answers later.
Yeah, I'm thinking of one player who might have played it last year, but I don't know if I'm getting mixed up with the UTFs. Alexei Popyrin.
Ooh.
Alexei Popyrin. It's an incorrect answer,
no.
Kim. Popyrin not on
That's quite
the list.
surprising, though.
Sounds like he should be on the list.
I was going to say him
because he won, whichever Masters it was last year, and obviously Laver Cup's in September.
Given him an invite, shouldn't they? Really?
How rude! Could I tell you who else I was thinking of?
Okay,
but I don't think I was thinking they need an Asian player. So it was Nishikori or Qinwen Zheng, maybe.
No.
We haven't done Americans, really, have we? I was thinking we haven't said Tommy Paul or Tiafoe.
That's correct. Yeah. You could have said Tommy Paul or Tiafoe. Any other names?
I feel like Apelka played it. I've got a vision of him there.
Yes, Riley Apelka on the list.
And I'm out.
Was there another South American?
There is one
Sebastian
more.
Baez.
There is
said
one more
Diego.
South American. I will come to them.
Baez
in
on
a
a
sec.
hard court. Sorry, you go. Tell us, Joel.
So Americans, you could have given me Jack Sock, Tiafoe, Tommy Paul, Riley Apelka, Taylor Fritz, John Isner, Sam Querrey. You did get all of the Canadians, Raonic, Shapovalov, Auger-Aliassime. You did get all the Australians, Kyrgios, Kokkinakis, de Minaur. You did get all the Argentinians, Diego Schwartzman and Francisco Cerundolo. All the South Africans, all one of them, Kevin Anderson. And there was one other player. I'm not going to give the nationality. South American.
Ooh, Jarry.
Alejandro Tabio. From Chile.
Wow, there must have been a withdrawal last year.
There you go.
Goodness.
Yeah, 18.
Well, Kim,
thank you, Joel. That's tough.
I feel like the 500th episode winner of half of the courts deserves a prize, no, Joel? Like a free pass for the Slam Spoon of Shame for Roland-Garros.
Oh, that's a good shout. I'll reserve judgment until my I can see how my predictions.
See how confident you feel.
Well done, Chris. I'm raising a toast to you there. And that brings us nicely on to our mailbag, because actually very timely for our 500th episode, we had Graham contact us with an email saying, "Hi guys, congratulations on reaching 500 eps. I've been listening since you were called The Passing Shot and look forward to listening every week. I'd love to know what have been your most memorable and favourite moments on the podcast across your 500 episodes." Thanks, Graham. Gosh, where do we start? I don't know if listeners have any favourite. If you do, send us them on socials or email or however. But I don't know. I'll start with this one, and I'll come to you, Joel and Chris.
Okay.
I don't know if it's my favourite episode, but the most niche was I had to do an episode on my own in 2019.
I knew you were going to bring this up.
I listen once a year, Kim. I love it.
Yes, an annual revision of it. I had to do the Wimbledon preview episode alone because you were at Glastonbury,
yes,
Joel.
I was.
And this was before
Kylie
Chris was on the scene.
I had to go see Kylie Minogue.
It's like national service. You've got to go.
Podcast from your tent at Glastonbury. So I went solo, and I had to make sure I didn't make any mistakes because I'm not really a whiz at editing. So I had to do one single take, and then I had to do it by a certain time because I had to fly back to London to go to Wimbledon. So I had time pressures, and I did it.
Wait, so you're saying your favorite moment was the episode without either of us?
Well, I wasn't trying to imply that.
The personal triumph, was it? Yeah. But finally, some peace, she says. Yeah.
I got through it. What about yourself, though? Joel, coming to you, what's your favourite? Well, not necessarily favourite. What's up there in your top 5? I don't know.
I mean, on a serious note, just the events that the podcast has afforded us to go to with all our hard work. We were at Wimbledon last year, which was very emotional for me as an Andy Murray fan.
That was such a moment, Joel.
Yeah, I was.
The tears before his final press conference. Last question. Oh,
I know, it was beautiful. And honestly,
poetic.
in that press room, it's asking the final question to Andy Murray at Wimbledon as a player, because he didn't play that mixed doubles with Raducanu. It just sort of put in perspective all the hard work, all the late nights, all the effort that goes into the podcast. To get that moment, was very special and very emotional. There are some other moments, though. I always remember I remember us sort of talking about, we'll record when Rafa wins the US Open after like a straight sets finish. I think against I think it was against Medvedev.
That was like 5 sets.
And it went 5 sets, and we just decided to record afterwards at like 3 a.m. It was on a Sunday night. It was on
I think it was the Dominic Thiem Sasha Zverev final, because I had to go to Cornwall next morning at like 6 a.m.
That is a rough recording.
Had to get it done. And it was right in the middle of the night, UK time. And
wonder what you said about them. I'm going to listen to that one, find out, because that was not a great match, was it?
And I remember at the time, I was decorating my bedroom, so I was actually like on an airbed in the lounge watching the tennis. And then
I'm glad we didn't have a video for that episode. Kim on an airbed.
Yeah. I know. Memories. Yeah, we have had to record at some interesting
I did enjoy that. And Chris, how can I forget? I mean, we tried to bring it up every week. Timea Bacsinszky walking past the Bacsinszky in the street in Prague, where we went to for the Billie Jean King Cup finals. We didn't even go there on media or accreditation. We just went there as fans, along with about 26 other people. 26 diehard.
One man with a drum from the Czech Republic, and that was it. Yeah.
And I remember speaking to some American fans who had flown over. Like, I was like, that is seriously like dedication to and commitment. But
they were really nice, that couple. Yeah, they were really, really committed. I think they thought it would be more of an event, but either way, they had a nice time. It's those like proper tennis experiences, I think, that are really nice. I also loved because Emma Raducanu, I mean, I talk about her a lot. I do think she's such a fantastic story, and I think it was so great getting to ask her so many questions. That was great at Eastbourne.
It was Eastbourne, yeah.
I loved your question, the proper, question that the newspapers love. The Express loves it, the Star loves it. When you asked Djokovic about his knee sleeve being grey, that felt
and
you made some
critique
serious
about
waves.
her Lego obsession.
You got some headlines out of that one. That was great fun. But I also think, talking to Jack Draper, we did quite an extended chat with him at UTS just before all the madness happened for him, and I think he's just such a nice guy, and I think it's great when you see these players and then you see where they end up, and it's nice to follow the stories, I think, probably. But I mean, Wimbledon obviously huge, and then I just remembered when Breakpoint reached out saying they wanted to use our audio.
Oh, of course.
We're on Netflix. That was quite a random one, a random email
Netflix
to receive.
Hang on, and also you broke BBC Sport with your Venus Williams scoop.
Oh yeah, Venus Williams not playing tennis. Who knew that would be such a big scoop?
Yeah, that was genuinely crazy. I woke up the following morning and went on the BBC Sport app, as I do, read that article, and I saw Tennis Weekly podcast, the name, in in the article, and I was
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
Chris, what have you done?
BBC Sport, I mean, we made it into some places. Even my father believes that we're doing something now. But I mean, Kim, you've set the radio alight as well. That was quite enjoyable to
I
listen
have
to.
been on radio, BBC Radio as a guest for their sports shows. That's been quite a unique experience. And I got a retweet once from Miranda Hart, one of my idols.
Wait, on your personal account?
Off the back of off the back of our episode.
Is that
about
just a
touch
personal
tennis.
highlight?
Touch tennis interview.
Personal highlight. Yeah, I remember early interviews of guests though. We had poor Wi-Fi, and we didn't have the money to do like the setup that we've got now. Thanks to the crowdfund. And the Wi-Fi just went. We had to reset a router while one of us kept the guest
It was
entertained.
so
Oh my goodness. If you're doing the pits, I mean, when Joel and I, our friendship was really put to the test after we recorded and we made this sort of like fortress to try and get the best sound we could.
Oh, yes.
In Manchester last year at the Davis Cup. And then we realised that the recorder was actually underneath a pillow. And so there was no sound. And we had to do it again. So we've survived that. We can survive a lot. But one thing probably to finish on, when we all shared a moment with the Renaissance. Do you remember this?
The Renaissance, in Coventry.
Coventry.
We were enjoying the excellent catering there.
Oh, Joel, that wonderful cheesecake. Surely that gets a mention
I never got
for
to
you.
have that.
Best catering. Wow.
Wimbledon.
I'm saying this with Wimbledon coming up. Generally, the catering at the... I can't remember what stadium it is. The main
Coventry
arena
FC.
in Coventry.
Rico Arena, I think.
Was it the Rico Arena? Yeah.
It was about the fact that we got to
watch
the match with Caroline Garcia, who was asking me what happened in the last point. I said it was a great point, but she missed it. She's like, okay, got it.
That was a great match. Bolter and Garcia, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. So we've had many, many highlights. Do let us know yours. I'm sure more will come to us. We probably should have to mention a few more maybe on our French Open preview podcast. But I mean, it's been such a ride, Joel, and all because you pressed record on a bench in Australia.
I know. To think we are here now, where we were, like, as I say, to begin with, those recordings haven't even been released. They are on a Google Drive somewhere.
We'll have to do like a montage at some point, just for episode 1000. We'll dig into the archives.
Outtakes.
And Kim, I do remember, because you were out there in Australia with, we were there like by coincidence, I guess, together with friend of the podcast Liz in Melbourne Park. And I remember talking to you about the pod like during Malek Yaziri versus Salvatore Caruso. On one of the outside courts.
Yeah.
It was going late, and there was just no atmosphere. It was just no atmosphere. Everyone was somewhere else, and we were just having a fun time, weren't we?
That is probably actually one of my best highlights. That match, and that is where it truly began. Malek Yaziri, Salvatore Caruso.
Thank you. Remember things.
You rushed off from, I think, like Carl Edmund versus Kevin Anderson. To go watch Dennis Istomin or something like that. Yeah.
Honestly, we're hardcore here, aren't we? It's just
absolutely. I miss Dennis Istomin every day. He was great.
Great eyewear.
Yeah, he beat Djokovic once at AO. But
is that why you like him so much?
Talking of Djokovic, I'm going to segue into the news because Andy Murray is no longer coaching him. It's quite sad, I have to say. I was looking forward to seeing them together at Roland-Garros and Wimbledon, but they've mutually agreed that this will not go forward together. So, what do you make of that? I mean, Djokovic hasn't had a great few months, I think it's fair to say. So do you think it was him letting Andy go, or what do you think, Joel?
Yeah, I think it's very sad. I would have loved to have seen them at the French Open, but I think, the partnership maybe became untenable based on the results and the loss of form that Djokovic has had, over the last few months. And ultimately, I think it's fair to say it's been an experiment. And the experiment, although I think it got off to a good start in Australia and Djokovic was playing well, it's sort of petered out a bit. And I think the only kind of positive thing I can say about it is based on the kind of the statement that Djokovic put out. It is nice to see that it sort of helped develop, I think, their relationship and their friendship between them as players and the respect that they have for each other. So I'm glad it didn't sort of sour that, and actually it's enhanced that. But from a kind of results point of view, looking at it a bit more brutally and a little bit more honestly, it just obviously didn't work out. And maybe it suggests, the best players don't necessarily make the best coaches, and maybe that's something that Novak Djokovic might take away from the 6-month experiment.
That is interesting. We talked about that last week, I think, where about the sort of the fact that some people criticize those who comment about how someone is playing who don't play the sport themselves. And we said that a lot of the best coaches, you look at their career high and it's not that high always. So I think maybe there is something in that. But it did feel like they had a lot of fun together. But we did talk about success off the court and happiness of like having the fun, seeing those fun moments between them didn't quite translate, which is a bit of a shame, really, because I think fans obviously loved it. There was so much hype going into it. It did feel like Djokovic was trying to do something a bit different at this stage of his career. What do you think his next move will be coaching wise? Do you think he will be in that era of like, I don't actually need another coach, another opinion? Or do you think he will be on the hunt once more?
Does he go back to someone he, knows
Goran,
very
do you think,
well?
potentially? Wait, who's Goran's coaching someone else now, isn't he? So off the market, but we'd have to see what he does. I think it's hard to know, because what does Novak Djokovic need right now, apart from wins? It's get that final title, then we'll see what happens. Because at the moment, the longevity you'd have to question, but at the same time, I did think that they would see out probably the clay swing in Wimbledon.
Yeah, it feels like it's been quite an abrupt end. Like the idea of it happening just before, the French Open. I do think that the Djokovic appetite is still there, and I think that will be aided maybe by having a dead hand in there that is going to keep him focused, and maybe having someone who not as experienced in coaching, no matter how amazing of a tennis player Andy Murray is, perhaps wasn't necessarily the best move, and maybe he'll go for a little bit more of an experienced option. But yeah, I'm more interested. I know you just said where does Novak Djokovic go from here? Where does Andy Murray go from here? Do you think this is just like one?
That's a better question, isn't it? It's more positive
into coaching, because again, there were times when I was kind of looking at his kind of social media. It sometimes didn't feel like he was fully committed or fully invested. Seeing him like play golf on the golf course, or flying out maybe at a different time.
Oh yeah, skiing. That was quite funny. Yeah.
So I don't know whether he's going to go back to kind of the family life, or whether it's scratch an itch and he's going to go looking.
How about? Yeah, I mean, Wimbledon, he could partner with a British player just for a limited period of time.
I would like
see
that
him in the
trial.
Commentary box.
I think the trial would be really nice to see how that might work out with somebody, whether that's a Jacob Fernley, whether that's a Brit. I think it would be great to see something like that. But I also just think he's earned the time off. I think he's earned the right to take the time off. I think spend time with his family. I did think it was quite, sooner than he might have wanted, to return to the tour. I don't think he expected to be in Australia last year. I think that's something that we weren't expecting. He probably wasn't expecting, and maybe a little bit further down the line we'll see him coaching again. But we're definitely going to see him at Queen's. They're opening the Andy Murray arena. I think they've renamed it. So that's his next move. And maybe take a bit of time and then see if there's someone who he can't resist. But I think
Raducanu?
him and Raducanu or Iga, I think that would be quite interesting.
Oh, Iga Świątek.
She said, I believe that she was in the mix of that. There were rumors, but we can't believe the Polish media we learned last week.
But is his stock? I feel like has his stock gone down because of the Djokovic experiment, or do you feel
sometimes it's not the right fit though? It doesn't mean he's a bad coach.
Best good friends. I wouldn't like to work with my closest friends. I think that might make it a bit harder when the results don't come.
And someone your own age as well. It's different working with a peer maybe to someone more junior. So I think there's a time and a place for him.
Or the prophecy, Caroline Garcia, it could come full circle, having said that she was going to be that big talent.
Oh my word! Yes.
Yes.
He needs to the tweet that has happened.
He needs to make it happen.
Social media, do your magic. Yes.
Well, on that note, let's look at what's happening this week before the French Open kicks off in a week's time, or less than a week's time. We've got Strasbourg this week, a 500 event for the ladies. We don't have Iga Swiatek there, but we do have Pegula there as the top seed. Navarro's there, Rybakina, Badosa, and Emma Raducanu as well on a wild card up against Kasatkina.
She's won.
She's won.
Straight sets 3-1.
Breaking news.
Yes, she plays Collins in the next round. So it doesn't get easier from there. But I mean, that's a pretty statement win on clay.
That's amazing. Yeah, because Kasatkina is, a top player. So that's great news for Emma. We'll see what she fares against Danielle
Stramkova.
Collins.
Got a win for you, Kim, in good form.
Stramkova. How about Stramkova? Surprise Roland-Garros finalist.
Oh, she's playing Joel's favourite, Lynette, who took out Krejcikova, who's returning.
They're in
it's all happening.
Rybakina's area, and Rybakina is not in good form at the moment. It doesn't feel like she's not playing up to the potential and expectation.
Well, it could be wide open then, but Krejcikova made her return to the tour in singles and doubles. She lost both now. And Strasbourg, she said she wanted to get some rhythm, and now she heads to Paris. So I'm not sure.
She did find some rhythm
without rhythm.
Yeah, she's
sadly.
rhythmless. She's on her way to Paris, but you know that she doesn't need form to win a slam. She can do anything from any seeding. So let's see how that one goes down.
She's still got her Lego, hopefully. But we've also got Hamburg, got a 500 event in Hamburg. Zverev is the top seed there. Tiafoe is in action as well. Rublev, FAA, Sebastian Baez, Cerundolo. So a whole host of names there. Any tips for this one, do you think? Who's coming through?
Well, I'm interested to see how Rublev gets on because, I mean, he's dropped a lot of points. He's dropped ranking places, not playing well. And I do feel like these 500s in the week before the Grand Slams, these are big opportunities to make ranking points because these draws are just not as loaded as some other 500 draws we get. I mean, even just talking about Strasbourg, comparing it to Stuttgart earlier on in the clay season, it's completely different. And I think for some of the out of form players like Rublev, it's good opportunity to make some of those ranking points back up.
You don't want to be playing them, I think. You end up playing them when you need some ranking points. And I think that's what the draw shows. It's a lot of players who haven't been in a lot of form or clay quarters who don't necessarily get that many points from making a couple of rounds at Roland-Garros. You could get some decent points at a 500. So you can see why they play it, but it is giving sort of like a 175. It's giving Estoril as opposed to a 500.
We've also got Geneva, of course, 250 that Novak Djokovic has, entered. Although he's not the top seed, that is Taylor Fritz. How do you reckon he's going to fare this week? Coachless and looking for rhythm himself.
Stronger field, though, isn't it? Clearly, I mean, I'm not surprised that Geneva's got more budget to spend on players than Hamburg because Taylor Fritz, Novak Djokovic, there's a few other players in there as well. We've got Popperin, Kachanov and Hurkacz. So there are some names as well as a player who did beat him already in Arnaldi, who he could play in the quarterfinals. So you'd imagine he's going to get some results. Hopefully he'll win some matches, but I don't think he's going to complete the tournament, even if he gets to the later stages.
I don't think he wants to. I don't think he deep down wants this to be 100th title.
You think he wants the slam? He's saving it slam for title 100, but surely
I'd
you could
take
say
anything if I was
yeah.
Do you know, I actually did a little digging. Do you know what Roger Federer's 100th title was?
Basel.
Surely Basel.
It was Dubai. The Dubai 500. I think he defeated Tsitsipas in the final. But I just wanted to just give a little bit of comparison.
Well, he's won a lot of big titles already, so maybe it's time for a small one.
Well, we'll see. And we've also, not forgetting, got the Rabat tournament, which is the WTA 250.
We are clutching at straws here, aren't we?
Yes. Osorio, Bouzas Monero, Anne Lee, Katie Volynets. Yes, definitely
Let's book
not
a flight, Joel, shall we? I'm so tempted. Let's sack off
This is naughty.
Sack off the draw in the orangery.
This is maybe a draw. If you look for a player who might bring a surprise next week, if they get a few wins under the belt here and aren't too tired traveling from Morocco.
She's returning. I'm going to make a prediction. I think that the winner is going to be Timea fever. I think she's going to win another title on the tour. You heard it here first.
Okay, well, let's see. And we've also got French Open qualifying, of course, taking place. So we'll probably be able to provide some updates on that in our preview episode, which will be coming out later this week.
Thursday,
yes, after the draw has taken place, which, Chris, you will be at with a cocktail.
Yes.
And Andreescu's already won, I think, in qualifying.
Yeah.
6-love, double bagel.
it's a good start for Bianca.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I just have to mention, Chris, because I just know it's your favourite topic. Laver Cup, João Fonseca and Holger Rune are making their debuts. That was announced this week.
Big news.
Big news story.
What you're doing in September, two tennis players are playing tennis.
Yes, I know.
I mean, Fonseca's another name to add to the quiz segment we've just done. So if we did that again, we'd have to say him, although he hasn't physically stepped on court yet.
They would be two. No, Holger's in Europe, right? Ignore me.
Yes, we will bring that. We'll bring that up. We'll bring that up next year. We'll get another Laver Cup quiz going on. But listeners, that's going to wrap it up for our 500th episode here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you have enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of ATP and WTA action with the French Open coming up as well. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your I'm mixing my words up here, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there. You'd think after 500 times,
I was going to say, Joel, you just said how good you were at recording now. Yeah.
Is it the peach beer that's
the Jubel?
Well, if you love what you're hearing, listeners, then do be sure to leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
It's harder than you think under the pressure now. But if you would like to stay connected with us on social media, we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads. The handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And do make sure you follow us in time for the French Open. We will be there. We will be sharing some Tennis Weekly diaries as we go and some content that you wouldn't want to miss. So make sure that you give us a follow and send us a mailbag for while we're in Paris. You can drop us an email at tennisweeklypod@gmail.com or visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back on Thursday for our French Open 2025 preview. But until then, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.